If you're waking up at 5 a.m. to be more productive, you're probably destroying your brain's ability to actually get anything done. And the science behind why this happens is something the entire hustle culture industry desperately wants you to ignore. Look, I'm not here to tell you that waking up early is bad for everyone, but here's what nobody's talking about. There's this thing called chronotype research, and it's been around for decades. Sleep scientists have proven that roughly 70% of people are biologically wired to be most productive outside of those early morning hours. 70%. That means if you're forcing yourself into this 5 a.m. club routine, there's a massive chance you're literally working against your body's natural operating system. It's like trying to run Windows software on a Mac and wondering why everything's glitching. Here's what's actually happening in your brain. Your circadian rhythm, which is your internal biological clock, controls when your body releases cortisol, when your prefrontal cortex reaches peak performance, and when your creative problem-solving abilities are at their highest. For some people, yes, that's early morning. These are your true morning larks. But for most people, forcing an early wake-up time means you're trying to do deep cognitive work when your brain is literally in its lowest performance state. It's like asking an Olympic sprinter to run their personal best right after they donated blood. Sure, they can do it, but why would you set them up like that? The alternative method that actually works is called chronotype alignment, and it's embarrassingly simple once you understand it. Instead of fighting your biology, you work with it. There are 4 main chronotypes that researchers have identified. Lions wake up early, naturally, and peak in the morning. Bears follow the sun and are most productive mid-morning to early afternoon. Wolves are night owls who hit their stride in the evening. And dolphins are light sleepers with irregular patterns who often peak in mid-afternoon. The key is figuring out which one you are, and then scheduling your most important cognitive work during your biological prime time. Now here's where it gets interesting. When you align your work with your chronotype, something remarkable happens in your brain. Your prefrontal cortex, which handles executive function, decision-making, and complex problem-solving, operates with significantly less metabolic cost. Think of it like this. When you're working during your biological off hours, your brain is like a car trying to drive uphill in 3rd gear. The engine's screaming, you're burning tons of fuel, and you're barely moving forward. But when you work during your peak hours, you're cruising downhill in 5th gear. Same destination, fraction of the effort, way better results. Let me give you a real example. I used to force myself to wake up at 5:30 every morning because that's what all the productivity gurus said to do. I'd drag myself out of bed, make coffee, sit down to write, and just stare at my screen for 2 hours, producing absolute garbage. Then around 10 a.m., I'd start feeling human again. But I'd already burned through my willpower and decision-making capacity, just trying to force myself through those early hours. Once I switched to starting my deep work at 10 a.m., which is when my brain actually turns on, my output didn't just improve, it tripled. Same amount of work hours, triple the actual results. Here's how you figure out your chronotype. For 1 week, pay attention to when you naturally feel most alert and focused, assuming you don't have an alarm forcing you awake. When do complex problems feel solvable instead of overwhelming? When do you find yourself getting into flow states naturally? When does time just disappear because you're so engaged? That's your biological prime time. And here's the thing that'll blow your mind. It might not be a morning slot at all. It might be 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. It might be 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. It might even be 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. if you're a strong wolf chronotype. The reason the 5 a.m. club became so popular has nothing to do with actual productivity science. It became popular because it's a visible signal of dedication. It feels hardcore. It feels like you're sacrificing. And in hustle culture, suffering is often confused with effectiveness. But here's a counterintuitive truth. The most productive people aren't the ones who suffer the most. They're the ones who create the least internal resistance between their biology and their behavior. Now let's talk about what to do with this information practically. First, audit your current schedule and identify your 3 most cognitively demanding tasks each day. These are things like strategic planning, creative work, complex problem solving, learning new skills, or making important decisions. Not email, not meetings, the stuff that actually moves the needle. Second, test your chronotype by tracking your energy and focus levels throughout the day for 1 week. Set reminders on your phone every 2 hours and rate your mental clarity on a scale of 1 to 10. You'll see a pattern emerge very quickly. Third, and this is where most people get stuck, you need to protect your biological prime time like it's sacred. This means saying no to meetings during those hours. This means not checking email or social media during those hours. This means treating that block of time as non-negotiable deep work time. I know this sounds difficult, especially if you have a traditional job structure, but here's the thing. When you prove to yourself and others that you can produce dramatically better results by working this way, you earn the credibility to protect that time. For those of you thinking this is impossible with your current job or life situation, let me offer this. Start small. You don't need to restructure your entire day immediately. Protect just 1 hour during your biological prime time. 1 hour where you work on your most important task with zero distractions. Do this consistently for 2 weeks and measure your output compared to when you were forcing early morning productivity. The difference will be so obvious that you'll naturally find ways to expand it. There's also this fascinating phenomenon that happens when you stop fighting your chronotype. Your sleep quality improves dramatically. See, when you're forcing a 5 a.m. wake-up but you're naturally a wolf chronotype, you're constantly sleep-deprived. Your body wants to sleep until 7 or 8, but you're overriding that with an alarm and caffeine. This creates chronic sleep debt, which tanks your cognitive performance even during your natural peak hours. But when you wake up closer to when your body naturally wants to wake up, you get more restorative sleep, which means even your peak hours become more powerful. The productivity industry has sold us this idea that discipline means doing hard things at hard times. But real discipline is setting up your life so that the right behaviors become easy. It's not about willpower, it's about system design. And designing your schedule around your chronotype instead of against it is one of the highest leverage changes you can make. Here's your action plan. This week, track when you naturally feel most focused and energized. Identify your top 3 cognitively demanding tasks. Then next week, schedule at least one of those tasks during what you've identified as your biological prime time. Protect that time aggressively. No meetings, no distractions, just deep work. Measure what you accomplish compared to your previous output. I promise you'll see a difference that makes you question why you ever bought into the 5 a.m. mythology in the first place. The 5 a.m. club isn't a scam for everyone, but it is a scam for most people. And the alternative isn't laziness or lack of discipline. It's actually being smart enough to work with your biology instead of against it. That's the real productivity hack nobody wants to talk about because it doesn't look as impressive on Instagram. But it works.